All right. Hello, everybody. If you're watching, which you should be, because you clicked on the video. So I hope you're watching. Welcome to the inaugural edition of whatever we decide to call the, the column now that we have video attached to it. Normally, our week in wrestling column, which I almost called it by its informal name that I put on the Google document.
It never stuck.
It never stuck, so it's fine. So welcome. We're just going to talk about wrestling the same kind of way we normally did, the way we do almost all the time. I just thought it was a better outlet to save our brains from writing the massive amount of wrestling that's happening every week. We used to talk about wrestling on a day there wasn't wrestling, but now there's wrestling every day. So that's just
I don't watch Impact.
I don't watch.
I have I have like a peripheral awareness of Impact.
Impact exists in limbo.
Yeah.
Sue Young is doing her best version of Lady Demescu from the most recent Resident Evil game.
It's true.
And I love that for her, but I will absolutely not watch that product.
No.
If you want to know why, I wrote a long bit about it in one of the previous articles that we did. But yeah, eventually this will probably look a little bit more professional. This is just extremely ad hoc this week, especially because Vishal, our very own Vishal,
Hello.
went and saw Grand Slam in person this week.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Hold on, though. The second half of Grand Slam was tonight. Vishal, how are you on this Zoom if it was tonight? I'm very confused.
Homicide and Eddie Kingston are behind him right now. I don't.
Yeah, actually.
What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I'm hanging out with CM Punk right now. You can't see him. He's right over there.
Oh,
That's someone else's gimmick. But I mean, we are press, so we have exclusive access to press suites at Arthur.
That's very cool, Vishal.
When
That's
I got
very
on the
cool.
press list, I explicitly asked that I said Vishal is going to need a room from which to do a Zoom call when we change our format. Can you make that happen?
The format that I knew I was going to change, but as soon
Mhm.
as Vishal got tickets to Grand Slam, sure.
It's true.
Anyway, I guess we should probably do some quick introductions. I'm going to look way better next week when my hair's not like this. But anyway, my name is Charlie Davis. I am the editor of this wrestling thing we do over here at ComicsXFight, which is not what I'm going to call it because we have our own vertical now. So,
and since I'm sitting right next to you, I'll go ahead and go. And I am Mikey Z. I am part of this wild endeavor, this new federation of wrestling journalists, if you will.
The new territory.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is that coming through? Is there like a weird bad noise that you guys can hear?
For like a second at most, but
Oh,
we're
I
good.
didn't hear it at all.
Yes, please move your phone. Oh my god.
it's moved. It's gone.
The bane of so many podcast recordings we did. Okay, I'll just cut that part out. That'll go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am Mikey Z. I am part of this, and yeah, I also do a lot of other things online, and you can find me online at quantum on Twitter and Instagram sometimes.
I'm Vishal Golapalli. I edit non-wrestling stuff for the website, and then that one time I edited the wrestling stuff because Charlie was busy. And so I put in a lot of Adam Cole slander, which I enjoyed, but
The weekend of All Out, how dare you?
yep, it was great. Big fan. But yeah, that's me.
I like how you ran with that, like the one time Heath Slater got to say he had kids. Like, Vishal's gonna bring up that he edited the column one time every promo, every show. My name's Forrest Hollingsworth. I'm a semi-newer wrestling fan, but I've been writing about with the team for as long as we've had it at ComicsXF, ComicsXFight, whatever you want to call it. I've been watching wrestling weekly for about 3 years, but I only had like a peripheral familiarity with it before that. And now I'm fully embedded. I follow pretty much every wrestler on Instagram, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, etc. And I watch all the shows except for the aforementioned Impact.
My name is Drunk. I got Will with the Comics XF staff earlier tonight because it's my birthday.
Happy birthday, Will.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I've been watching wrestling since Stone Cold and The Undertaker had a first blood match circa 2000. So I have been I've been watching the product off and on ever since then. Mostly off when it comes to WWE, but I think we're all pretty much on that same page. But anyway, we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much. We're gonna talk about some things we haven't gotten to talk to you in a while. I think normally what we'll do is just go through the week like we normally would. Even though Mondays and Thursdays are strangely absent of content on, on those times. I made a running gag for a while that I promised myself I would watch Impact, but then actually never did. It's what became very apparent while Kenny was on Impact is that he would basically have the same promo the same segment every week. And I love Kenny and I love what he's doing, but it just became so repetitive. So
yeah, one thing before we even move on to Raw, one thing I've been thinking about with Impact is it's very much like holding up this old vanguard of what WWE and to some extent, from what I understand, WCW, latter day WCW was, and Impact was when it was still TNA, is it's this very post Attitude Era, but not yet in the Renaissance of wrestling style of promo where it's just, or style of product where it's just the matches are still good, but the actual structure and product in between is very edgy, but also bereft of anything interesting. So it's just the same thing over and over and over. And they it's the WWE over explaining everything, assuming no one knows what's going on, but without any of the actual production values and panache and personality of a WWE product. Because even when they're bad, one thing that I do think is still why a lot of people watch WWE is it has personality. It has this vibrancy. It has production values. It looks nice when you put it on your TV, and Impact just doesn't have that. And I do think it's a real shame because they have some really great workers there. I cannot bring myself to watch one of his matches, but I hear Josh Alexander is one of the greatest wrestlers currently working today. I wouldn't know it because I cannot force myself to watch that product any more than I have. Try.
Yeah, I mean I think it's good to get out ahead of it, and I just don't have time. I need to have one day where I don't watch wrestling, and Impact is the one that I'm least invested in.
yeah.
I started with watching WWE pay-per-views, and I have since watched all the pay-per-views since 2010.
Whoa.
And so I'm invested. I watch Raw and NXT and Smackdown or snippets every week, and then all the pay-per-views since. And it's just you need one night that isn't.
Yeah.
And I watch the indies too, to be clear. I watch Ring of Honor and GCW and stuff, and that's Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night.
Yeah. Well,
so
I was gonna say then Emo Fight was on this Thursday. That was the important thing that happened on Thursday.
Right. So it's just the one that gets headed off. But it's good to be upfront about it and say we're probably not going to cover it.
Yeah, if you want Impact content, I would strongly urge you to go somewhere that's not here. Yeah, but I mean, Impact aside, I think it's
Raw.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say we are gonna start talking about Raw.
We are gonna start talking about Raw.
It's just preference.
I want to say, I just want to put it out there that I put Raw on this week, and I didn't immediately turn it off. And I think, I think that's an improvement. And I think that's the only reason why I didn't is because I tuned in. He started doing the old AEW trick by saying, let's put our exciting match that everybody wants to see on first. So this week it was without any build, without much of any reason at all, except for
a vignette on SmackDown last week.
Yeah, but it still felt hot shotted because it was.
It was.
Yeah, so it was the Bloodline versus the New Day, a match that everybody wanted to see, and I didn't think that it would get time. I kind of predicted maybe how it would end, not exactly, but I tuned into Raw and I saw that. I didn't turn it off, so mission accomplished.
Yeah, and apparently Raw ended on a good triple threat that spun out of that 6-man, which again, kudos to them. That's surprisingly good booking for the USA show.
Yeah, they opened with Big E and Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston against the Bloodline, which is Roman and the Usos, Jimmy and Jay. And then they ended with Roman, Big E, and Bobby Lashley, the previous Raw champion.
Yeah, and
big boys.
The other thing is Natty and Tamina are no longer the tag champs. So we can anyone that has been following Raw even peripherally can breathe a sigh of relief. And I actually didn't hate I was kind of going in and out of it while I was doing other chores, because that's, I think, the preferred way to watch
3 hours of anything.
Yeah. Oh God,
they expect you to watch it like that, honestly, with all the recaps.
They do.
Yeah. I didn't hate the Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss segment, actually. It felt like a good pivot away from some of what the bad Alexa Bliss stuff has been, with the doll blinking and everything. I'm still almost expecting a weird Chucky cross promotional thing
we
happening.
keep talking, we keep seeing the Chucky series advertised on the USA Network.
Yeah. So because it's airing on Sci-Fi, which is one of their affiliate networks, the new Chucky TV show, Child's Play, I think.
I know, it's just called Chucky.
Oh, sorry. Child's Play is the franchise.
What do you have to say about Monday Night Raw?
Well, let's just lay out some kind of ground rules for talking about Raw and kind of the current circumstances. I think we can all agree, as people who watch WWE, who follow WWE, Raw is fundamentally broken. Yeah. At 3 hours, it's unsustainable. For a large part, Charlie, you were just saying, I didn't turn it off. I didn't hate it. That's not how you should consume an entertainment product. You should look forward to these shows. You should want to engage with these shows. But Raw is at such a point that, hate watching is about the only way to watch it. So I don't think we can make this point every week. So let's just make it now. 3 hours is bad, is wrong. They would be so much better off at less Raw. And the roster depth is not what it should be for 3 hours. Yeah. And I think panic mode is the wrong way to phrase it, but it's kind of close to that, because not only do you have the yearly threat of Monday Night Football coming for your ratings,
right?
But you
call that out. Yeah.
You also have AEW, and so that's why I think we have Roman and the Bloodline on Raw with these two big bookend segments. Yeah. This doesn't happen in isolation. This happens very much in the context of everything going on. And it shows that Vince is taking this stuff seriously. Maybe not AEW. I think if you called into Stanford, Vince would say, "Oh, they're not competitors. They're, Disney Plus is our
t-shirt
competitor."
Company. They're t-shirt.
Did you play a recording? Is that an MP3? Wow, uncanny.
But yeah,
that can just channel the voice of Vince McMahon, straight, beam him in from Stanford at any point.
But I think it's a good sign for the loyal competitors down in Jacksonville that Raw, edged AEW in the key demos. But this was the biggest thing that Raw could play. This was their big card short of Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
a three-way match between Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, and Big E. That's the biggest thing you can do outside of Brock Lesnar. And to think that it's basically a draw with AEW, that is really astounding.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on that Brock Lesnar point, there were reports fairly recently that after SummerSlam and after Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar both returned for Smackdown, the show on Fox, the show that WWE is visibly prioritizing because it's on basic cable. It's not on a package deal or anything. It's on Fox. It's one of the channels everyone has access to. USA has been asking WWE, please prioritize our show. We look like chumps. So in part because of Monday Night Football, in part because of USA asking for more priority, WWE is in the short term starting to put attention back on Raw, and hopefully that's a good thing. I hope this leads to an upward trend, but hope and WWE don't tend to go together.
Yeah. Alex. Oh, sorry. Just really.
Go ahead.
Alex Pulowski on Fightful had a really good point that like bringing out Big E and making him the champion, like you could build in 10 or 15 years, if you play your cards right, Big E could be like a better Goldberg or a Cena or something. Like he's someone that people want to love.
Yeah.
And they have done a lot of like transmedia content, the New Day have. So people know his face even if they don't normally watch the product week to week. So, one would hope that this is the start of a big build, but my cynical self is like, they're not that smart. And it's like you said, we'll just kind of like, what's the biggest thing that we can push to get eyes on the product? But we'll see. I'm hopeful. I want good things for Biggie and New Day.
And they have that Undertaker movie coming out soon, which
yeah.
implies that
Weeks.
the New Day is, I think everyone is of the understanding that aside from Roman Reigns, the New Day is the most valuable regular product on WWE. Like Brock Lesnar is higher, obviously John Cena is higher, but they're part-timers at best, and Roman Reigns and the New Day are 1A and 1B for the company.
Right.
I'd put Becky Lynch up there, but man, the heel turn is.
I would have before the heel turn.
And we'll get to that.
And just a rough state of the women's divisions in both Raw and SmackDown.
Bizarre.
In general. Yeah, bizarre considering.
Yeah, and I won't leave this to talk about for Friday, for when we talk about Friday stuff. I didn't think, as we keep hearing about them talking about how USA wants this, Fox wants this, how long do those forces stay here before they just start to pull everything apart?
Yeah.
And that's,
I think that is the core problem with SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Which, we're talking about something further in the past at this point, but like everything leading up to SummerSlam and also spilling out of it is indicative of those conversations and of that problem. I mean, you can do any amount of equivalency or math to try and figure out like, oh, Fox gets this or USA gets this, because you're right, Vishal, all their A-listers are on SmackDown, but also Raw gets to advertise that they have all the pay-per-views. Fox can't be happy about saying, go watch Peacock.
Yeah, and in fact, so Fightful dropped the first part of their investigative reporting into what exactly the nature of the relationship is between WWE and the networks that they partner with. So Fox seems pretty happy, but also they have, it seems like, other business interests. Like they had Stephanie McMahon on Fox and Friends, and Charlotte Flair on Fox Sports Network programming. So there's like a synergy there in terms of like the Fox brand or the Fox portfolio of products, so to speak, that even if they're promoting Like they were able to go on Fox Sports Network and say, go watch this on Peacock. And I think it's because they also had like a 4-hour business dinner in Las Vegas. Vince, Nick Khan, and I think like Rupert Murdoch and
Sounds fucking
his
horrible.
like their
Oof.
head of television. Yeah, it's freaking wild. But I would have shared it with you all, but it was a long piece.
Yeah,
on
I read
Culture
it this
Select.
morning. Yeah.
And I think it's like because their business interests and perhaps even political views might be synergized, the executives can swallow the bitter pill of having to promote what is essentially another streaming services and another network's streaming service on their product. Also, it made the point that if the Fox branded products and channels had wanted the pay-per-views, they could have paid the premium for it to put it on Tubi or whatever over Peacock, and they chose not to do it. So
Does Fox own Tubi?
apparently,
Well, we're learning
This
revelations.
is a whole other podcast.
Yeah, we're
What
learning
the
revelations.
yeah.
But I will say, Monday is Monday, but I will also talk about that normally on Monday, the thing I like to watch is Being the Elite. But
Yeah.
this week's episode of BTE was just Nick and Brandon shopping for a little bit. And that's really what happened. So there wasn't a whole lot on this week's BTE.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the state of like Raw wrestling competition is a weekly YouTube show, a vlog.
That
with
would be very
with
funny.
horrific audio production.
Right.
Oh,
They
boy.
don't have boom mics. They don't have shotgun mics. They don't have anything. It's Brandon Cutler running up to the Bucks holding $1,000 shoes in the mall.
Yeah.
And some,
with the
and some
GoPro
weeks
and-
I'm like, this is better than whatever's up with that doll, though. Like,
Agreed. BTE is a very I love BTE. I think last week, so the week before this week, 2 weeks ago, a BTE when Adam Cole came back and kind of enriched
Baby.
all of enriched all of that rich canonical history back into the product. And there's like an amazing like 5 or 6 minute scene at the beginning of BTE where they're kind of like Adam kind of has amnesia a little bit. He doesn't remember the last 4 years, and he doesn't remember that they all tried to kill him. Kenny and the Bucks. Actually, they did kill him. They didn't even try. But he's got this like 1,000-yard stare when he goes to pick up a can of Monster Energy, and he's like, "Oh, no, I'm just gonna pick the Bang Energy drink." And Matt's like, "Good idea." Yeah, and it's like really, really funny. Those guys, they show their comedic chops a lot on BTE, and I'm glad that Adam is back because I think he adds a lot. If you've actually watched any of the early stuff with him in it from 2017, like I was so excited to have him back because I think he adds a lot of value, like to those 3 guys. And yeah,
Well, you compare the Brandon Cutler and Adam Cole segment on this week's BTE to like any of the Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman.
right, yeah.
The same thing.
Well, I mean, I
They're on
agree.
SmackDown. makes
You
me
said
remember.
earlier, Mikey, about that them moving away from the like lolly Alexa stuff is a good direction, and I'm glad that that's getting out of there. She was just acting like Alexa Bliss on this week's show, which is
Yeah, and
it's
she
not.
didn't-
You would normally describe that as a lateral step, but it is a step up for the shadow of Bray Wyatt's character that they've had her
Mhm.
standing in for months.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
cutting line when when Alexa's
and-
like Charlotte's doing the woos and oh boy, but and she's like, that's not even yours, and then
Right.
Charlotte's like, you want to talk about originality to Alexa, and it was good. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah, right.
too far,
They're
it was
getting
good.
they're getting at that stuff. And even still, the fans were chanting the dolls' names.
Yeah.
Jokingly or not. I mean,
I
the
can't
Raw-
tell if it's a joke. Alexa has been surprisingly over since fans have come back. Like, unanimously in
Yeah.
the crowds.
She's a good ass wrestler, and I just wish they'd let her show it.
Well, and I do think that the character moments that she got this week were really good. Like, I thought that Charlotte has been someone that's kind of gotten to run roughshod over a lot of competitors, and Alexa finally was like, "Hey, the buck stops here." And I think there was kind of a build, but it got interrupted in the past couple weeks, when supposedly, who can say, scripts got torn up and things got thrown out the window, and everything that was being built towards was torn down and rebuilt within a 30-minute span. Who could say? But this, like, I like stuff like this where people can be mean and threatening to one another and just like real meeting real. It was good.
I'm gonna put a hard stop on our Monday discussion.
I was about to say this is a lot of Raw.
The thing about it is that it ends up being the most interesting show to talk about because of all of its problems sometimes, though. Like,
yeah, but
I want to say one final thing. I want to make a bold prediction. And for the draft that's upcoming in a couple of weeks, Drew McIntyre is going from Raw to SmackDown.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's my bold prediction.
Yes.
That everybody agrees with.
I'll hold you to it.
I think Happy Corbin switches.
Well, this isn't draft prediction week yet. Stop. No.
Okay, yeah, we'll hold off on the rest.
But let's move on to Tuesday nights.
My brand.
New attraction. I'm gonna let Vishal take the reins on this one because NXT, our dearly departed regular old NXT, is now been replaced by NXT 2.0.
It's
Vishal, tell us about it.
So NXT started off, as plenty of people know, as a legitimately developmental program for WWE. You had people coming in, figuring out their gimmicks. You had stuff like Adrian Neville, who had his first name at the time, doing this like superhero from the skies thing, and then he went to the main roster and was an actual superhero with a cape, and it was really weird, but he was still really over. And as it went on, as they got people like Finn Balor, like Samoa Joe, like Kevin Steen, now Owens, like it started becoming less of this is the new trainee who is figuring out their gimmick, and more of this is the hottest free agent, and it's a big deal that they're here, which kind of culminated in the Adam Cole signing, which has, in my opinion, haunted NXT since he came over. They have not been able to do anything with him that didn't feel disruptive. And Adam Cole is a fantastic wrestler in every way. He's an incredible promo. He's an incredible in-ring performer. He is everything you want from a wrestler. And his feuds and stories and matches in NXT have been some of the best. Like, folks here know I'm a gigantic Johnny Gargano mark, and he had an incredible feud with Johnny. But every time they tried to do anything with Adam Cole, he was so over that it ate up the rest of the card. This was most prevalent with Gargano. I think the only person to ever win out in a cheer-off against Adam Cole was Ciampa after he came back from injury. And that's not like a good thing, because when this is your most dastardly heel who is winning 90% of his matches off of interference, you want boos. And it was something that I think the rest of the elite at AEW, when they turned heel, they started getting boos because the crowd was buying into it. They liked the elite. They would still pop for the big high-flying spots, but they would boo when there were interference sections because they knew that's what they needed to do at that moment. It's why you got chants of "you sold out" when the Bucks betrayed Moxley. It was like, obviously it's a huge, really cool moment, but you need to play into it. And NXT never had that because the fans were a mixture of indie people mad at main roster WWE for ruining their favorites, and just smart marks in general who really enjoy cheering the things that are supposed to be booed and booing the faces. It's a problem. And losing Adam Cole and starting NXT 2.0, while it has made the product maybe less consistently like indie wrestling in the way that a lot of people want it to be, and less like AEW's competition, which a lot of people were used to it being. It has made the show something unique again, where you can see people like Braun Breaker, weird name, not a fan, but he's a really cool guy in ring and on the mic. I like what I've seen of him so far. You can see him like get his sea legs. You can see him team up with Tommaso Ciampa and work with the crowd a little bit, cut basic promos, but like
he's a genetic
prove
freak,
that he,
you know.
he's a genetic freak. You can see him be a genetic freak before he goes to the main roster, and you can be like, oh, this guy looks like he'll be a big deal. And unlike when you saw Adam Cole and you were like, this guy is a big deal, and we know the main roster is going to ruin him, you see Braun Breaker and you're like, he could do well there. Like, this is an environment that he can thrive in. And I feel so much less cynical about a lot of this new talent that's coming in. Like, there's jokes about how every episode of NXT 2.0 is going to be like, who are all you people? Why are you here? I don't know any of you. But when I look at them, they look like the kind of people who I'm not going to be really sad about in a year. This is the way I was with Aleister Black, with Samoa Joe, with Shinsuke Nakamura,
with Bailey.
Yeah.
And like some people from NXT have had really good glow ups. Drew McIntyre is the most recent big like success story. But before him, you kind of have to go back to Seth Rollins, and that's not a good look.
No.
Well, it's okay.
I think my biggest grumble with the way that they've been presenting things in NXT 2.0 is they're obviously new, and we obviously haven't really seen them before, or at least in this gimmick for a lot of the people they're introducing. But the product, in the fiction of the product, is also treating them as people that we know and have seen before, like WWE tends to do. It's like, oh, here's this person, like they do that, like
they just evaporate, like they just kind of like were formed right
like
here.
Michael Cole will say, oh, that's, this person. Well, obviously
it was interestingly a problem that AEW had very early on that I think they've rectified, but like the moment I keep pointing back to is when the Butcher and the Blade debuted, and Excalibur just yelled, "It's the Butcher and the Blade," and everyone else was like, who? And Excalibur would just continue to yell, "It's the Butcher and the Blade." Like, do you not know these people? No.
Yeah.
So I'm not the first person to make this point, because it's a really smart point, and I'm not going to claim credit for it. One of the primary problems in the WWE universe is that Vince McMahon is no longer a promoter of professional wrestling. He is a presenter of professional wrestling. And that central problem has filtered down into NXT, NXT 2.0, where you're not telling the stories. And that was one of the biggest problems of the previous NXT. Like, what was the story of Finn Balor journeying from NXT to the main roster and then back to NXT? Like, there was no story, there was no evolution, there was nothing there of substance. He was just presented as a guy who came out in a leather jacket and would pop his collar an obnoxious number of times, because that's where they told him to stand for the cameras, and he had to hit his mark on every flippin' entrance, because everything is micromanaged and overproduced and whatever. But there was no story. There was nothing to latch on to. And I think that's going to be an issue with NXT 2.0, and that you're introducing so many new characters, and you're not giving us anything to believe in. You're not giving us, why should we care about Braun Breaker? The natural thing would be to talk about his family and to talk about reality. And I don't mean like the reality of the meta stuff we get so much that to me just doesn't sell pay-per-views. It doesn't sell shows, like people arguing about their push. Like, I want to see people arguing about wins and losses. I want to see people saying, I'm going to come out there and I'm going to kick your ass. I'm Braun Breaker. I'm here to break faces. Like, I am here to dominate. But but that's just not in Vince's wheelhouse these days. So that's going to be a challenge moving forward, and I hope they address it, and we'll just see.
Like, I really wish they were introducing some of these new people, like Top Chef or Terrace House or The Real World, where it's like, we're getting all these new people all at once, but they talk. You're having segments where they talk about themselves anyway, but they just give really bad promos because they're really green. Like, there are ways to introduce people that aren't the other side of the story, which was like the one woman this week that was like, hi, my name is whatever, and I'm from Oklahoma, and I'm so happy to be here, which is like the other wrong side of, just stating who you are and why you're on this show. The one notable exception to Will talking about nobody giving a story is my personal least favorite.
It's my personal favorite.
I was gonna say the only people whose names I know are Braun Breaker and Tony D'Angelo, and
Tony D'Angelo is incredible.
So
how you doing? I'm here to eat spaghetti and wrestle some matches.
It's like a guy that they told to stand in the background of a Sopranos scene.
Yeah, so I need to stress that I grew up and am currently residing in New Jersey, so I will always love this specific. No, and that's
New Jersey.
Exactly. That's why I love him even more, because they are doing all the New Jersey things, but then they are also saying, we're not going to do the really easy, cheap shots at New Jersey that we did with Liv Morgan 4 years ago, because I hated those. And those are really annoying. Yeah. We're going to have this guy be visibly from New Jersey and tell everyone he's from Chicago so that we just don't have to deal with that. It's great.
My favorite part of this was listening to people talk about Smackdown, NXT 2.0 after the show. And Tony D'Angelo in his promo is by some docks.
There's no docks.
And there's no docks in Chicago. Not like that. So he's either by some docks, and he believes that Lake Michigan is the Atlantic Ocean.
Or he's just traveling like some major states in the US and trying to.
My headcanon is he is from New Jersey and he tells everyone he's from Chicago so they don't make the jokes.
I'm personally invested now because of the canon I've made up about Tony D'Angelo. Rather than
that's the thing, right?
So the funny story is the man behind the mask, Joe Areola, is actually from Chicago area. Yes, his real shoot name is Joe Areola. So it couldn't get.
Yo, I'm Joey Nips. What's going on?
Man.
God.
It's unfortunate any way you slice it.
Yeah.
God,
it's gonna be interesting to see what happens when he gets in the ring.
Slice that Chicago deep dish.
Yeah. Also, the thing, we did turn it off this week though when the Joe Gacy stuff happened. I know that it's like my question is, for anyone that didn't know what happened, just go look it up. I guess
I'll do a quick summary.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So Joe Gacy came out and he cut a promo of like, this is a safe space and we are all tolerant here, et cetera, all the like things that decent people could reasonably say, but obviously making fun of it. But also the point was his character is being made fun of. And my personal opinion on this, I know Mikey and Charlie did turn NXT off because it bothered them, but my personal opinion is this is very similar to what they did with Juice Robinson when he was CJ Parker, whose whole gimmick was the environment is dying and we need to save it, and they had Kevin Owens come in and beat him up, and they had Baron Corbin come in and beat him up, and they had the crowd yell at him every single episode. It's not good. I would like for them to stop. I would like for them to figure anything else out, but this is same old, same old.
I think it's less about the content because I can see through it. Like I can see through it and it doesn't offend me in that way. I think what it's, and I listen to I don't listen to Talk is Jericho frequently, but I listened to it today when Adam Cole was on it. And Joe Gacy's a guy who was a deathmatch wrestler.
Yeah, I was
CZW.
just gonna say, contextualizing it adds a lot.
Mhm.
But as Will said before, they don't want to do that. Joe Gacy was a 3-time Combat Zone Wrestling CZW Deathmatch Heavyweight Champion. Like, the joke therein is that he was a dude that wore literally like other people's faces was his mask that he wore to the ring.
I mean, the Gacy's his last dish, like his kayfabe.
Right, like it's very, it's obvious. It has all the weird like serial killer sociopathic signifiers, right?
Mhm.
But and so I understand the idea behind let's make this guy the like cloyingly performative SJW character, because it's almost meant to be parodical,
Mhm.
but you don't know that.
Yeah, you don't.
If you like, what is the crossover between the people that watched CZW and NXT?
Well, and the other thing is, I can't trust anything knowing that Bruce Pritchard and Johnny Ace have their fingers in it. Like, just knowing where their brains come from. Like, I can see the through line there, and like you said, Vishal, like I can see the through line to other things. Like, same thing with like, Daniel Bryan being a vegan when he was a heel, like, and us supposed to, having the wooden belt, and that's like a bad thing. And the other thing is, I don't understand, not only is that gimmick, what it is, but then I don't understand the through line on why Cameron Grimes, like, they're using it to put over Cameron Grimes as a face, but I don't understand why he would involve himself in any of this. Like, he's not, there's just no connective tissue there.
Yeah.
And know is that they deleted all of the clips of Joe Gacy's segment from YouTube and from Twitter this week.
Oh.
Like, whether that was because of production pushback or internal pushback or fan pushback, I mean, we're all very cold on it, clearly. Like, they pivoted from whatever idea they had.
Yeah, I think a best case scenario is they just go in a different direction. And to me, that if they go in a different direction and if that direction works, that'll be the best like proof of concept of NXT 2.0, that you can have your characters come in, figure out their gimmicks, and if something doesn't work, they can fix it. Yeah. This is where you go to fix it.
Yeah, I think that's the full circle on the developmental conversation, and it's just like the people that entered NXT when it was the super indie, there will be a learning curve to it going back to being that raw of a developmental product.
Yeah. Like, people like Tommaso are there to be
be
the backbone, which like that should be the way it is. Like, I'll tell you, I was super scared when I watched that inaugural episode of NXT 2.0 that they were going to give this guy I'd never seen before the NXT championship. And I was like, okay. Kyle O'Reilly's been feuding apparently with a ghost for the last 6 months. So I can't talk about what he was doing. So, I mean, they were just going to take him out of the match. You're like, oh no. Like, that was super scary. And like,
it's a house of cards.
Yeah.
Like any individual gimmick is when it is relying on stuff that preceded it, like the Joe Gacy joke, if that's what they were going for, is. And then also Kyle's directionless because of that too. Like, and it's across. It is happening to the bottom card, the mid card, and the top card right now.
And like, it's so unfortunate with like the Undisputed Era guys, because like Roddy's got this new thing, but I don't think it works for him at all.
And Bobby got released.
It doesn't work for him, but also he's a champion now, and I don't really understand what's happening.
Well, and the other thing is, obviously we have the cruiserweight stuff with Kushida, and like that was a great match, I think, but then it's like, well, what happens? They had all these grand plans for the cruiserweight division. I'm glad for Roddy, but then like what happens now? And then the other thing that kind of fell off to me in the balance was the comparative lack of the women's division. Like, we still don't know. Like last week, even though they didn't announce a reason, Raquel was at someone else's wedding with Braun Strowman, but then this week we didn't get any of the championship stuff really at all. And I felt like the women's division presence was very low. Like we got some toxic attraction, which is really just like weird, kind of spooky Mean Girls, and it's not really working for me, mostly because the Eva Marie stuff, like she isn't strong enough in personality.
Mandy Rose,
Mandy
but
Rose.
yes.
Mandy Rose.
Wow. Do not conflate those two.
Sorry.
There was like the weird switcheroo they did.
Yeah.
With the brunette hair. But it's just different. I think a lot of the pushback is because it is. I think a lot of it's wait and see. I think a lot of the problem from the start was positioning AEW as NXT's competition, which it never was. It would never, those apples and oranges, those two products were. And the last thing I'll say about NXT is that when I listened to Adam today, he said when he had those talks about going to the main roster before he made his decision, they told him, they're like, we're thinking about changing your name.
Yeah.
We're thinking about changing your look. And he's like, but I've been Adam Cole Bebe for like 10 years, and that's what my value is.
Right.
Like, what? Like, so, you know, like speaking to someone like Rex Steiner, who is Braun Breaker, like there is no connective tissue. Like Kyle, I feel so bad for Kyle.
Right. Kyle is a great example of that.
Kyle and Finn had a great match, and Kyle should have won that NXT championship when he was so over. And the fact that they've erased his history, he's got no history now.
Right. You can't be who you You can't be who you were before. You can't be the person you were currently. So and it leads you, and they have no vision for who they will be in the future either.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's easier to do that with numbers filed off Tony D'Angelo, Von Wagner.
Yeah. Well, and speaking about it, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back to the women again, just because that's like what I think of the most. Like, you know, Frankie Monet just came into NXT comparatively not that long ago. She had been working from start, you know, in the women's stuff, kind of building that up. Does she start from zero again? Because that, you know, that seems rough, even in a developmental, to this person that was building up to maybe eventually go to the main roster, to start from zero again and have to refigure that out. Because obviously they wanted a reset on some of their belts, but the women's belt has been the one that hasn't really been clear where they're at with that. And then you have people like Saray, whose gimmick felt very like I knew where that fit in the old NXT. I don't know how that fits in the new NXT. Same thing with Xia Li. Like that is someone that they had built and built and built and built, and it never really came to fruition in the old NXT just because there wasn't like enough time. And that like Chinese wrestler who was trained by a mystical dragon lady, like that absolutely feels like it has no place. And so like it honestly feels roughest almost on like foreign talent that they were starting to build it, like because they were starting to build this canon in as a developmental wrestler, and now they're just kind of left in the lurch. So that's where it's most concerning for me, is like, do they feel like they need to fully reset everyone? Because then that feels a little unfair and probably less good for them in the long run. Like I understand the point of like, you know, new people might be jumping on, like we don't want to, like it's the number one comic book problem, right? Like you don't want to pretend like nothing happened before, because then the people that are reading because they care about like Spider-Man feel slighted. But you also don't want to confuse people that are just buying it because it's a number one. So
it's 2.0 in name and in visual.
So I'm gonna put a hard line on the NXT conversation for next week. Because
I think I want to close off the NXT just by saying one thing. Like the super indie era of NXT was very deliberately an attempt to kill the American indies in the same way that NXT UK was explicitly an attempt to kill the British indies. And it is, to me, a good thing that it's no longer the super indie, because AEW exists, because Impact is getting back on its legs, because Ring of Honor is getting good talent again. And GCW has crazy stuff going on. Like, we can be excited for companies that aren't WWE again. And I think that's a good thing, even if I am sad that my personal favorite promotion is weird now.
Yeah. 2.0. Vishal 2.0. Yeah.
Vishal
And I'll say
2.0.
this as my bottom line for NXT 2.0. We have arrived at this moment of being skeptical of basically everything that they're doing because Vince and company have run an ethically, creatively devoid company for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like they have zero good faith, zero ability for like the people like us who like podcast about wrestling, zero willingness on our part to trust what they're doing. And they have earned that moment.
Yeah. And theoretically Sean's still involved, but the unfortunate timing of Triple H's heart surgery does I'll just be honest, it does leave all this feeling really weird, because like that's why I say, like, you know, as far as I know, Bruce Pritchard and Johnny Ace are running the show, because it's like, well, it isn't Triple H because he's convalescing. So, you know, it's just a weird time. And
it is.
I hope everyone makes
Dynamite time.
Dynamite time. Let's talk about Dynamite Grand Slam in
the good
New
stuff.
York City. Let's talk about Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. Let's talk about
American Dragon.
The choice to have that open the show was very important, because you needed to open the show with that. You can't have everyone chanting for Bryan Danielson. My apologies.
The American Dragon. I've been calling him Dragon around the house.
Dragon.
Because I still have all those reflexes. Yeah.
I don't think a normal AEW crowd would have chanted the whole time, but New York is a special beast. So
I got goosebumps when those two were standing in the ring, and that crowd was on fire.
Daniel was crying.
Hot.
Daniel was crying.
Daniel was crying, or he was tearing up at least, and Kenny was so deliberately trying to hide any emotion on his face.
Terminator, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, even aside from the match itself, like, I couldn't be happier for these guys getting to do this. I couldn't be happier for, you know, what is, for many people that have followed either their career for a while, what is a dream match.
It's like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt versus John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt from PWG in 2009.
Yeah, well, no, and then too, like, I think even if there was no way the match could be bad, but I think like if you just freeze that moment where the crowd is so for them and for this, and that emotion is on their faces, like that is like the best of wrestling, right?
Yeah, for the first time in a decade, Danielson got to hear the crowd chant the whole "you're gonna get your fucking head kicked in" thing. And like, honestly, in the arena, we were very off sync the entire time, because there were 20,000 people there. You can't sync that up. But he heard it and he acknowledged it, and I can imagine that meant a lot to him, because that's something he hasn't heard in over a decade.
Yeah, I watched. You liked a Twitter post earlier today, Vishal, that I saw, which was, for a lot of people, AEW is like the MCU. So everybody's previous canon, they don't really know. Like, maybe they know of it, or they read a Wikipedia page about it, but they don't know. I keep underestimating the amount of people that don't know that Kenny Omega is this damn good at his job. And it blows my mind, because I've watched all of those Wrestle Kingdom matches multiple times, the matches at Dominion, like the story that rips my heart out. Like, I've watched it so many times, and I know what he's capable of. And I accidentally called Brian Okada when I was explaining this match to somebody, because that's the the chemistry I felt between these two.
Honestly, I think this is one of Kenny's best matches this year.
This was,
Like,
I
this
would
is
say
his best
this is
match this
Kenny's
year.
best match this year.
I was gonna
What
say it
I
might
thought
be
was
his best
interesting.
match in like the
Yeah,
last
go.
couple of years.
What I thought was interesting though was I don't think this was Danielson's best match this year.
Nope.
I thought Kenny, he obviously had more in the tank, but he put on a performance that I don't think anyone else has been able to pull out of him in like 365 days. Even Moxley, who I think is an incredible counterpart to Omega in the ring, like the two matches they had in the last year, the one that was on TV and then the exploding barbed wire death match, they were both too busy trying to do something else that they couldn't just show their strengths the way that the first Lights Out match did. And Danielson, I think he had a better performance at WrestleMania this year. But I don't mean that to disparage this match, which was, again, the first 5-star match he's ever gotten from the big critic that I'm not a big fan of, the old man.
Yeah.
Very strange because he's had better matches.
Would have been 6 in the Tokyo Dome.
It's very funny to me that Danielson gets his first 5-star match in the same like group that there's a G1 match that got a 5.5.
Yeah.
Just because the man's always himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But beyond him, just Danielson very much feels like this was his first match in a non-WWE style, and he spent a lot of it just taking offense. And I am very excited for him to like cut loose and get into this very fast-paced mat grappling technical style that he has perfected, because he didn't do that with Kenny Omega, and I know he will at some point.
Well, and the interesting thing is, I don't think he'll be on like Dark, but the point that I saw made is that now, like, he got his one, right? And now he has to work his way up through the wins and losses to become #1 contender again. If he really wants to face Kenny or whoever the champion is at that point. And again, I don't think he's 40 years old. He shouldn't be slumming it on Dark every week. He doesn't need to do that, right?
He's 40 years old and coming off like several neck injuries and other injuries, and has retired twice. Like,
but I do want to see him like wrestling, I don't know, the Blade, Daniel Garcia, you know.
God, a Daniel Garcia match would be incredible.
Well, what do you think about this
Zack
one?
Sabre Jr. Called him out recently after his most recent G1 win, which is something I'm excited for.
Bryan Danielson award winner Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah.
No, I would love to see that match so much. I would love to see, you know, Bryan Danielson break out of the snare trap. You know, I think that could be an interesting match. Like now that this was a good like first matchup, and now the possibility space is opened up in a way that I think is really interesting. Also, God, I just keep thinking about that suplex, the Snapdragon suplex he took on the ramp, and then
and then the V trigger. Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, and that counter.
The counter to the one-winged angel. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tanahashi did that once, but it was like there were like enough time between the setup and the counter that it was obvious. And Danielson did it in like literally the blink of an eye.
Smooth
it was
like
incredible.
Glass. Yeah. I want to just put a point on this to say this was good booking. This was good long-term planning. This was good in-ring wrestling, all coming together to just make just a magical start to that show. Yeah. Just watching it on TV, I can't imagine how it was in person, but there was just such that quote unquote big fight feel. Like it felt like a moment. You could see that on the television. You could hear that in the crowd. It was a moment. And not to continue to go back to WWE, but we just don't get so many of those outside of you know, undoubtedly the hottest product right now. We talked about this earlier. I want to compliment the idea to put these guys on first. To me, it speaks to what we saw a month ago or so with CM Punk in Chicago. Like, give the people what they want. Put your hottest stuff on first. Get those eyeballs on the show and keep them there. And I got to look at the breakdown of the minute by minute ratings for Dynamite, and those eyeballs largely stuck around. Like, I think the peaked at like 1.5, and then it went down to like 1.2 or somewhere around in there. Like, people tuned in, and for the largest part, they stayed. And that is really amazing in an era of television where your first hour does great, and then that third hour just falls off a cliff. The best part of this, in my mind, is that normally, if we're watching some other company, we might have one of those cheap, terrible distraction finishes. Where somebody like the Elite runs in and Cutler sprays somebody with the cold spray, and Brian takes his eye off the ball and he gets rolled up, or whatever. And it's just a terrible, cheap finish that doesn't mean anything. Because we have a company that has built in the idea of time limits, and they haven't gone to this all that often. They've done.
I want to say twice.
Yeah.
Let's see. I remember Mox and Pac.
Mm-hmm.
And
Darby and Cody had
Darby
one,
and Cody.
and then Cody and Orange for the TNT title had one.
So it'll be 4.
3 or 4. Yeah,
What,
this is the
including
4th,
this
I
one,
guess.
Yeah.
A handful.
It was a good finish. You didn't put one of these guys over right now, and that's good, because this is a start of something, and that's so important in wrestling. This is the start. You are delaying that gratification. And look, I don't want to see Bryan Danielson beat Kenny Omega for that title.
No.
I want to see Hangman Page in front of 30,000 people screaming their heads off. And that's the thing that's going to get AEW to the next level.
Yeah.
That's going to get them to 1.5 to 2.0 million viewers on the regular. They are building their own star for the next generation. That's the thing that's going to take them to the stratosphere. But I do want to see the next Omega Danielson match.
Yeah.
I want to see which man's going to be better.
That's something that WWE to me hasn't. I don't want to always make it about the comparison, but AEW and it comes a lot from New Japan as well, because the EVPs are so influenced by their time there. But AEW has this big sense of winning a match against someone is just as important as winning the title from them. You can see it in stuff like Jungle Boy versus Jericho, which put Jungle Boy over massively, and he didn't even win the match. He went to a draw, and it was a huge deal. When every single time Darby Allin loses a match, he looks like a star, because it's not about the result. It's not about the finish. It's about the fact that he looks good. And this match, this time limit draw ending, it didn't just end with like Danielson or Omega scrambling to get a pinfall as the time ran out. They were just kicking the hell out of each other because they both had so much more to give.
Yeah.
And they made it very clear that we have so much more to see from them. This isn't the end.
Yeah, I was going to ask what the vibe was there, because I know the fear when Charlie was predicting a time limit draw, the fear was people would be disappointed.
There were boos and they very much used both CM Punk cutting a promo after and then the Pillman MJF match to like kind of soak in the rest of it as like, all right, you got a little disappointed, but you appreciated the match. We're getting through the worst of the show. Now we're getting a good promo and then the match that you're the least excited for. And then we got Cody versus Malachi, which I've said to y'all separately, to me, that was the match of the night. Not because Danielson versus Omega wasn't magical, but because the crowd during Cody versus Malachi was the hottest crowd I've been in. I've only been in a handful of wrestling crowds at this point, but everyone was excited for Danielson and Omega, but everyone in New York, this wasn't the case when I went to a show in Jacksonville, but everyone in New York, in Arthur Ashe, watching this, decided at the same moment that they hated Cody Rhodes. That if there was one outcome that they would not support, it was Cody Rhodes winning.
Yeah.
More than the Danielson match, which everyone was okay with whatever outcome happened. Honestly,
Right.
even the draw, they
Sure.
by the time the commercial break was over, everyone was like, okay, yeah, we're happy, we're good, we enjoyed that match. If Cody won, they would have rioted. I would have rioted. I would not have been happy.
Let me ask the panel this. Is this a master stroke of planning? Does Cody look at this a couple of months ago and figure, this is how I'm going to plan my heel turn? Because we saw some overt heel things in that match. You do not hit a ref in AEW for there not to be consequences. We have started down that path to a heel turn.
This is a brand.
Charlie has a different.
I have a thing that I've learned a little bit, and I think it's come a little bit clearer to me in the past couple of days. At first, I was like, Cody's in the Codyverse. He's just in there, and he's gonna stay in there because he doesn't have the awareness that he's not in there. Because there is all this chatter about the EVPs and how they don't get along. I don't think that's true, but I do think there are very different philosophies about wrestling there, and you can see it. Cody is old school wrestling. The Bucks and Kenny tell the stories because they don't. Kenny said it more than once. I don't care about professional wrestling. I care about stories. I just happen to be a really great professional wrestler too. And those two bridges, I don't think they meet. If I'm being very uncharitable, I would say that Cody rode those guys' coattails to get to an EVP position in the company. That's kind of mean. That's my very.
I would counter with they also rode his name to get that same position.
But I mean, I digress. But that's not the point. The point is, I for a while really did believe that Cody was just kind of stuck in his little Codyverse, and that was fine for him. When I saw the size of that cape last night, it changed my mind. Cody knows exactly what he's doing, and he's known exactly what he's doing for quite some time now.
So my perspective on this, to answer Will's question, is I don't think Cody came out in New York knowing he was going to get booed. But I think their first match in Jacksonville, I happened to be in the crowd for that too. I was at the homecoming show. And the crowd was split 50-50 because a lot of people were excited for Malachi. Aleister Black was great in NXT. Obviously, a lot of people love Tommy End. They were hyped for him to come to AEW. So people were cheering for him. But in AEW's home turf, in what is their I don't know, I can't even compare a WWE venue, but this is their location. The people were 50-50 because they loved Cody in Jacksonville. And in New York, where Gargano got booed because Adam Cole was there, that was never going to happen. They don't have hometown heroes in New York if they weren't born in New York. And Cody knew that he wasn't going to get unanimous cheers. I don't think he knew he was going to get unanimous boos. But what I think is important is both he and Malachi were aware that it was a possibility. And they knew that if Cody was going to get booed that badly, they couldn't just play the match like he was the babyface. At the very beginning, Cody poses on the turnbuckle and everyone is booing him. I'm booing him. I hate the dude. And he just looks not even hurt. He looks disgusted. These are all acolytes of this guy who's been torturing my family. What's wrong with all you people? And I think the finish was always going to be that. I think the ref spot was always going to be that. But I think the intent was closer to the Bray Wyatt, John Cena of I'm trying to corrupt you. I am actively corrupting you. Where the story we eventually got was less of Malachi corrupting Cody and Malachi corrupting us and Cody not being able to be strong enough to stop that.
Remember what Malachi said when he debuted, or the second night, like the second Dynamite after that. Do you hear these people? They love violence. Like, you know, it's very smart. I love Malachi. I think he's some of those photos from Wednesday where he's shrouded in that red light with the smoke behind him and he has his mask on, like, they look otherworldly. I think he knows exactly what he needs to do in this company. I can't wait for him to have that freaking belt. Like, I'm so excited for Malachi and what he's going to be doing once he escaped the Codyverse, which I hope he has.
It seems like it's over now.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
Like
Sorry, go ahead, Mikey.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the one thing I do think, like, I don't think it's been explicitly planned, like, this is the moment that I'm gonna turn heel or whatever, since like many months ago. I think Cody did have like a sense of the grander scheme, but you know, I could see that, like, Brandy sitting down in the ring with Malachi and giving him the double middle finger is like, you've torn my family apart. However, like, I can see that read, and I can understand where that comes from, but I haven't seen a Brandy Rhodes like this since NJPW, since the American Nightmare.
Since she fell down on the outside and had Ibushi like pick her up, and then Cody like kicked him. Yeah, that's the kind of act that I'm used to them having.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if this like Hollywood Cody that we're getting isn't going to be, because the whole thing with the American Nightmare is like Cody channeling his love of Metal Gear Solid and also like the worst things that America exports. Like, I think he is foolishly idealistic. Like, Cody Reynolds is foolishly idealistic about the role of the United States in modern day society.
We just have to remember that promo he did before the match with what's his face.
I've said that, like, I booed Cody because I hate him. I mean, like, I cannot stand Cody Reynolds because that promo he gave, regardless of the intent, made me so viscerally like disgusted with him that I can't ever cheer for him again.
Yeah, like, I think, but the point I was making is I think he has some idea of like how people perceive. I just don't think he believes it, but he's good at channeling it when he gets his mind to it. If that makes any sense. Like, he knows that like the Japanese public does not like American imperialism, so he's like, I'm gonna play like the American bad guy in like a Metal Gear, but it's like it's the people that like believe Hydra are the bad guys but don't think that there's like an upsurge of real Nazism in the United States. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Cody's one of those. He also doesn't believe unions are good and beneficial.
I mean, we're kind of synthesizing a lot of things now, but
yeah.
I don't care what you do for the flag, man. You should stand for it. All right. I mean, stand for the flag. So I'll make another bold prediction. We will know that Rhodes has 100% officially turned heel when he goes back on the championship step. Yeah. And I look forward to that. I would love to see.
I think that was a deliberate seed.
Oh yeah, I would love to see a Cody Rhodes Hangman Page feud for the title.
Oh, with their history, considering that Cody is the one that like he planted the poison seed that the Bucks don't love you as much as you think they do. Yes, absolutely.
That'd be some good damn television right there. I'll tell you what.
And then, I mean,
sadly, after that match, like, yeah, there was nothing too much. I think it is noteworthy that the women main evented, but they also were clearly not the main event of the show.
Yeah.
And it was like a pittance that they got. And I'm not gonna like complain about it. I thought that the match was fine. I thought Ruby made Britt look like a star, and Ruby needs something to make her offense look better. That was my main takeaway from it.
And it could just be shaking off the rust so to speak.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah, when you sit and not don't
Yeah,
do
it took
anything.
Andrade a little while. It took Miro a little while.
Yeah.
I guarantee Ruby will be ready to go soon.
I would counter that Andrade is not there
Yeah.
yet. Like, I think it takes time. Significant.
I think the Pac match
I think
was
his
good,
Pac match was really good for me.
But there hasn't been anything since. Do you know what I mean? Like, he got a promo in on Rampage tonight.
Yeah,
But
I meant just strictly in ring. Even like Andrade's match against Kenny at Triple Mania was fine. His match against Pac was like, this is the one from NXT. This is that guy.
Yeah, I do think he's had, like, Andrade specifically has had an issue of, like, some matches, like, it just doesn't seem like he cares. So it could be that.
Tranquilo.
I do think we're kind of getting like a weird pivot, because I think the pivot was supposed to be to Rick, and that can't happen now.
Right.
So you notice
they have to have known that, though. Like, the episode was announced a while ago.
I don't think you can convince.
He's the guy's, like, son-in-law. So,
Yeah.
No, I just mean, like, Tony Khan has to have at least been like, there's a possibility we don't do this.
Well, to be clear, to be very, very fair to them, Rick has not been on the product.
Yeah.
The
most he's done is appear at Triple Mania. Yeah.
Right. And that is not their product whatsoever.
Yes.
I mean,
100%.
The defining feature of the Triple Mania match was the heel referee, which is a whole type of carny that you don't see in AEW.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about the ladies a little bit, because I do think they deserve the time, and they got the time. They got, like, I love, the one thing I do love is that the only belt up on the show was that one. It's the main event.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes total sense. I love Britt. I love Ruby. I think they put on a good match. I think the finish left us a bit cold, because just like Kenny, and I think Britt's got a lot of Kenny's DNA in her, because I think I see a lot of Kenny Omega in Britt. We know she can win the match without the help.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's Undisputed Era Adam Cole.
Yep. Yeah, that's very apt. That's very apt.
Yeah, so I think that left people feeling a little cold. If she had just won clean, like.
Yeah, she won clean against Statlander. Like, she didn't need. I don't know. It's fine. I assume Thunder Rosa is going to get her big crowning moment against Britt, and it is going to be incredible. And I am happy to wait until then.
Yeah, she just has to clean out the monsters first, as we saw on Rampage. It's kind of hard to talk about one without the other.
Let's just talk about Rampage.
Yeah.
There's nothing on Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, because I was gonna say, like, with the Andrade stuff, like, he got rid of his manager, and now he's just like, well, this guy is my only help, because he's the guy that doesn't try to interfere.
Jose.
Yeah, Jose.
Because we're bad guys, but good guys.
Good guy Jose.
And so I need,
which
here for me.
I think is a good gimmick for Andrade, where he's a bastard, but he is proud enough to not do the classic heel antics, because AEW has, I think, gone not WWE level, but they've gone a little overboard with some of these finishes involving heel antics.
Well, they had a face heel balance problem, so then they, like, overcome. It's just like, it's tweaking the levers.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
But then Thunder Rosa cut a promo on Rampage. There was a video package that had her being mad at Jade and Nyla, and saying that she's going to take them out. So those are kind of what I view, and I think that's smart. One thing I will say is both of these shows were, like, kind of thinking of them as a whole also is kind of expertly booked, right? Having Thunder Rosa have that mini feud gives the Ruby and Britt stuff time to breathe.
Yeah.
So it's not just one thing colliding into another.
Yep.
And it makes sense too, because then that picks up the plot threads that the Women's Rumble had. So it feels like a very logical progression, even if we do, like, really want to see, like, another Thunder Rosa and Britt match. It's like, well, you got to take care of what's in front of you first.
Yeah.
So I like that about it.
Let's talk about CM Trunks.
So-
Trunks.
My hot take is that the Punk Hobbs match was better than the Punk Darby match.
Oh,
I think that's true.
It was wrestled. There were two different stories here.
Yeah, and I
One-
think
yeah.
Darby's story didn't work for me at all. I think the build to that match was as like, haha, this is a work as you can get for me, where it was just clearly CM Punk is very happy to be back and he wants to wrestle the new kid, and that is cool in real life. As a wrestling story, it leaves me cold.
I
Mm.
think
And
it worked.
the Hobbs match is stupid. The story is stupid. Taz just yelled at CM Punk for mentioning Team Taz. Like, it's a stupid story. But there's anger and like a reason for them to fight that works for me a little bit more.
See, I think what I will say is I think the Darby match worked much better in person
Mhm.
than it did, because like the crowd was really really digging a lot of what was happening, or at least that's the energy I felt.
Yeah.
But then when I came back, like this is where it was a blessing that there was no cell reception in the Now arena. Because then when I came back, everyone's like, oh, that match was so slow. Oh, that's blah, 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 blah. And like, I totally get it. But to me, it felt like...
We were all just happy to have CM Punk back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also like, in terms of like tactician, like Darby is a very fast guy. Punk kept him slow and kept him cold for most of the match and like forced him to wrestle this style that he wasn't as used to. And then when Darby took over more control of the match, then it sped up. Here, this was like Punk making a statement and saying, hey, if you didn't like that Darby match, remember, I can fucking go. And just from jump, like showing the CM Punk that people were worried didn't exist anymore. And Will Hobbs, who is an incredible talent, I think he's gonna go so far. Like I keep saying, like I liked the sneer, but then when he had like the high fade and the overalls and the earrings studs, like that was like, I'm like, this is the look, right? And because he always had the talent, and this was just like showing that like when you're that big and you can keep up with the speed of match that CM Punk was wrestling, God, it was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was I love seeing Punk do the knees in the corner. It was good. My match of the night was the one afterward.
It would be.
But
of course.
Sorry, I'll just get my Super Click chat out of the way. The Super Click is back, baby. I love the three of them together. When they walked out, they looked like they never left each other. Like, it's so funny, and I don't think only hear maybe a handful of people say this, but I'm in one of them. I think Adam being the guy who everybody loves, and the Elite being these people that everybody hates, is part of the story. Like, it
has to be.
How long until Kenny and Adam butt heads? Because it's gonna happen. Because Adam is the thing that Adam doesn't have the same trauma these guys have that turned them into this thing. Like, he's clean of it. Like,
he was the guy who betrayed all of his friends instead.
Yeah, Adam is stuck. This Adam is stuck.
Oh my God, Will.
Panama City Playboy.
This Adam is stuck in 27. Like, he's 2017 Adam Cole. Like, the Bucks and Kenny can't be 2017 Bucks and Kenny. Like, and that's so interesting. And I can't wait to see it play out. Whatever it's gonna do, whenever it's gonna happen. I love this match. It was fun. They have a finisher. They did a kiss. I was happy.
Yeah, because like I don't know
Charlie Core.
Yeah.
I don't know what direction they're gonna go in, but like if Adam Cole comes out in the kind of outfits that the Young Bucks have been wearing, I feel like people will be genuinely conflicted. And it'll be
let's do it.
Like whether to cheer for him or not, it's like, has he gone over the dark side? Versus like if the Young Bucks come out in like leather jackets and looking more like Adam, how is that going to change how they're being received like before a match? I think it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, knowing that people are so split and that the Young Bucks have so thoroughly worked people that people are genuinely dubious about whether they could be friends with someone like Chris Kanyon. Dark Side of the Ring this week, just very quickly, was very good, but also a very rough watch. But the Young Bucks were on it. They were good friends with Chris Kanyon. They are real people who are decent human beings, and that is separate from their trash gremlin sneakerhead personas.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of speculation from my part. What if instead of one day, we have the Cody verse now, what if at some point we have the Elite verse that is separate from the title? We have, again, Hangman defending against all comers, and the Elite are once again imploding. But instead of Hangman this time, it is Kenny and Adam fighting.
Yeah. Will, like, if for some background info, in NJPW before Adam went to NXT.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that, like, that high point. I don't know any of the details like you do, but yeah, I know what had happened.
I think they're keen. Kenny's very keen on picking up stories and continuing them. So that's where we're going. It's just how we're going to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good 2 years of television and pay-per-views to watch and enjoy.
Exactly. What was your favorite match from everything, Forrest?
From everything? Oh man. Well,
your favorite match all time, Forrest.
We haven't talked about the Lights Out match, which technically speaking didn't happen.
First, I just want to mention the 8-man tag was an incredible watch live. I don't know what it was like on TV.
I don't know that it translated.
No,
yeah, it probably didn't. Like that's I think the Spot Monkey Fests are for the live crowds, and that I think, Charlie, you mentioned a while ago that you fell in love with the Young Bucks when you went to a Dynamite and saw them live and were like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And that's who they're for. It's for the people watching, because they started on these indies that didn't really get televised. So they wrestled for crowds.
Yeah.
And Private Party does that. The Lucha Brothers do that. Proud and Powerful tend to have not done that, but when they were teaming with the Lucha Brothers, they wrestled that style really well. And the Butcher and the Blade were really good big boys to ground everything again. But it also fell into the classic AEW, I cannot tell who the legal man is anymore problem.
Does it matter?
By God, I don't like this kind of match.
I legitimately.
Why don't they use the tag ropes?
I legitimately forgot about the 8-man tag, just because this will be a match I'll go back and rewatch, because I was not really watching this match. I had to take a nap before Rampage, which is the one bad thing about Rampage. This is where my brain was just kind of like, I need a rest. I need to not focus on the TV if I'm going to make it to the main event. So I'm sure it was really great. Like, I love Proud and Powerful. I love the Lucha Brothers. I love Private Party. I desperately wish Private Party wasn't part of the Hardy Family Order, but
or Hardy Family Office. We don't even know anymore.
HFO.
That's a bit of a mess. I will say that I skipped over something that I do just want to touch on briefly because time is a thing. FTR versus Sting and Darby was also incredible.
Oh, but okay.
I've said, Will, you weren't here for this, but while the match was going on, while I was in the arena, I just repeatedly typed into chat, I do not fuck with Sting. Because
You're
I don't
so
fuck
wrong
with
on
Sting.
this issue, but
I don't even dislike him. I just I am apathetic to seeing Sting, because I am, 1, very young, 2, started watching wrestling in 2019. Sting is out there for me. He is Hulk Hogan era. It's not something that crosses my mind. I think it's cool AEW has him. I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch anything he does.
But FTR had cool NWO gear.
Yeah, I really loved their gear, and then I was bummed out that they lost, and also that the New York crowd was booing them really badly.
They're heels.
AEW is not going to put anyone over Sting. They're just not.
Yeah.
That's their booking philosophy, and I respect it. You know, if you bring legends on for your show, if you have them, don't book them to lose, because that's not what we want to see.
Except Tully Blanchard, he can lose all he wants. Tully and Arn lose all you fucking want. Like Arn, fall down, get back up, and get hit by Cody. We're doing that this match.
We're gonna do the spot we planned. God damn it!
God.
That was very interesting to see.
Watching it live, what we saw was Arn fell for some reason we didn't understand. Yeah. He got back up. The Cody spot happened, and then to us, because we didn't have like the view of what they were saying, it looked like Arn just betrayed Cody or something and like told him to fuck off and was gonna go to the back. And we were like, oh my god, is it happening? But then I did go back and watch the like actual broadcast, and it was like, no, Arn was telling him like, no, get back in the ring, you need to fight this guy, which is less fun. But I'm gonna live in the universe where Arn just got hit by Cody and was like, you know what? God damn it, I'm done with this Nightmare Family horse shit.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry for skipping ahead to the lights out match, because I forgot about the 8-man tag. But then there's also the Penelope Ford and Anna Jay match.
The match was okay. Anna Jay is green and returning from injury, and I think if anyone has an excuse to not put on a barn burner, it's her.
Yeah, at least Penelope Ford found the right side of the brass knuckles this week. I feel so bad for her that, you know, it is what it is.
I wouldn't want to put brass knuckles on in the middle of my performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the important part of this was the Dark Order.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, can you explain what happened live? Because there's a whole part that didn't make it to TV.
Yeah, so the segment that was on TV was after the match. Penelope and the Bunny were beating up Anna and Ty, and then the HFO all came down, and then Orange and Chris came out and brought the Dark Order, the entire Dark Order, the group that's been feuding for a while.
But segmented, kind of.
Yeah.
So
they brought out half the Dark Order, and then Stu and Evil Uno and Colt came out a little bit later, and they all rushed the ring. They saved their friends. And then the good half of the Dark Order, the one with 5 and 10.
Ooh.
Well, one side demasked the other, and I think that kind of sets which one's good and which one's bad. But okay, but the side with John Silver and Reynolds and all of them, I think Reynolds specifically extended his hand, and Uno said no and left. Yeah. And it cuts off with Colt leaving the ring kind of unwillingly and being caught in the middle and standing on the ramp. What it didn't show was that after that, when the cameras cut, Uno and Stu went to the back. Colt stayed on the ramp, and everyone who was still in the ring, so Orange, Chris, 5'10", John Silver, and Reynolds, they all did the giant best friends hug. And Colt Cabana was just standing on the ramp, staring at them really sadly and holding his arms out like he really wanted someone to hug him.
Aww.
And that's where it ended.
Yeah.
And then they walked back.
I think it is interesting. You bring it up, the good part of the Dark Order, and then Forrest goes, "Ooh." I think that speaks to the rift. I wish this story had played out every week on Dynamite. I wish that we had
the fact that it's on Dark and that one of my friends who I was watching Rampage with during the broadcast explained to me what happened on Dark. That's not ideal.
So the only thing I will say for that is I do think the part that was in the ring was supposed to be the good part, because 5 and a lot of the 5 and 10 and some of those other guys are over as the vlog crew.
Yeah, John Silver is the most over member of the Dark Order by a wide margin.
Yeah, but I do think that unit like it's on YouTube. Like people watch some of the YouTube and Twitch content because they like Five, and so I think the feud happening on YouTube, while not ideal, like in terms of audiences, like the people that are really into those guys are gonna be watching on YouTube.
Like the whole genesis of the feud is not necessarily like of the infighting. It's not necessarily the YouTube stuff. It did happen. Like we saw the catalyst on TV. It's when everybody wanted to come out and help Hangman, and Uno and Stu said, no, we have to respect what Adam asks us to do and not get involved. That was the catalyst. Now, if you go back, you can see that the Dark Order, including Hangman Adam Page, had been mistreating Five also. So maybe it was funny jokes, but how long is it funny jokes until it's not? Kind of similar to like how long is it funny jokes with the Elite and Hangman until it's not anymore. But you know, the catalyst is Adam being gone. He left this vacuum that can't fill itself. So I'm interested to see what happens, because I think that's great fallout from Adam leaving. Like I think that's really good for him. He was the glue here when he never felt like he was anything at all with the Elite. So we'll see where it goes.
So does Adam come back to fix it all, or does one Wyndham Rotunda come in to fix it all?
So I think Wyndham Rotunda should stay away from the Dark Order. I think it is bordering on insulting, personally, to have him come out and try to be like, I'll save the Dark Order. I think that everything around Brody Lee is sensitive. For me, it's just a little too sensitive. Where they were very good friends, but it's not something where I would want them to do a work of like, I will save your former group now that you're gone. I don't like that.
I'm of two minds. The sweet story is that Adam comes back and whips everybody's ass and says, this is what no, we're not doing this. That's the sweet, happy story. The story that I personally always want to see now, because the Elite have taught me, is maybe you need your friends, but ultimately you need to fix it yourself. Like you need to do that yourself. But I think it's Hangman. I think something happens this coming week, considering where we're at. We're kind of like at a point where we need, like, Adam can take as much time.
I thought you meant location-wise. They're going to Rochester next week.
Yeah, it was Brody.
That's Brody Lee's hometown.
Yeah.
You need to do something there.
You need to do something there.
Yeah.
So I think something's happening. I don't know. Well,
can I be controversial?
Do
it.
Always.
I think it should be Anna. I don't think Hangman should. Like Hangman can help.
I agree with that.
I don't disagree, but I think that they deliberately walked away from that tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Anna and Ty left and said the boys need to sort this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it, because like it all feels very real, which like is what I always appreciate with this. It's like,
well, yeah,
I'm enjoying what I'm seeing of the story.
Yeah. Go ahead, Forrest.
I was just gonna say, like you said earlier, Vishal, Anna came back from injury. And another very valid response to coming back from injury and everyone being too busy to fighting with each other to care about you is to just be like, well, then forget it.
Yeah.
You know, Ty is my friend.
Yeah. Like Ty's here for me. Like what are these boys
and
doing?
She's like a green belt in jiu-jitsu or something, which is awesome.
Yeah. I do like how the best friends in Origin Chris's like superpower is like trying to get everyone back, like trying to make sure everyone has backup. I like that a lot. I would like to see that become not like a recurring thing but like just sprinkled in enough to where it's great. Also ironic because they have their own kind of like rift happening with how they're treating Wheeler Yuta versus how, you know, like Wheeler Yuta just does whatever I want him to do versus like Trent, where we'd have disagreements and stuff, and that was inconvenient. I don't know, that's obviously just on Twitter right now, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the one thing about AEW that's really fun is the characters do feel really real, and they are allowed to have complicated emotions about stuff. It like, I don't know, this is going to be cliche, but it's like very like X-Men in that way, right?
Speaking of characters who are very real, Eddie Kingston was a goddamn star. And I mentioned this
Oh
because
my
Eddie
God.
Kingston believes wrestling is real.
Nobody tell him otherwise.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think people have told him otherwise, and he's just chopped them and told them to shut the fuck up.
I've been Eddie Kingston stan number 1 since day one, so you don't have to tell me. But man, how great! Like there was this moment when it's just Eddie and Suzuki in the ring, and like those are two guys that like kind of, I looked up their history on Cage Match because I was curious. They really just like passed by each other, like literally.
Yeah.
It was like a couple of, they were working in the same promotion but like separated by a couple years. And Suzuki had wrestled with and against some people that Eddie had wrestled in his Japan tour with Chikara. And so it's really like, you get the, and especially with Eddie being such a big like All Japan guy, like fan of All Japan, it's really like, hey, we're finally getting to do this when they square up and size each other up. And it was just like, man, how great is that? And then, you know, Lance coming out with the kendo sticks. You know, I know this was like the last thing on a very, very long night of wrestling in New York.
We were beat.
Yeah.
But the Kaze ni Nare was very loud.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, we saved all of our energy up for Kaze ni Nare and for Eddie's entrance. And a lot of people, I didn't because I didn't know who he was. A lot of people found an extra burst of energy for Homicide's appearance.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about Homicide. I have since learned that he is very close with Eddie and is like one of those like original people in New York.
I was a big fan of how there was a cuddle pile in the corner with Eddie, Mox, and Homicide at the end of the match, this lights out match, which just exemplifies what I love about deathmatch wrestling. Is sometimes you can just hug everyone at the end, and that's sometimes also good. I'm glad
one of my favorite things about the death matches I've seen at AEW is that there is like a handful at most of pinfall attempts. And this one, it was just the one. They beat the hell out of each other. Eddie slammed the trash can a bunch with a kendo stick, and that was the match. Like they didn't do near falls. This was about trying to kill each other first. Yeah. And I just really appreciated that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's interesting.
It was a long night of wrestling, but it was good.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Smackdown. We're not going to talk about it. I didn't did anything.
I watched a little bit of Smackdown. All I want to say is that you mentioned something about like Thunder Rosa having her own feud, kind of giving room for Britt to breathe, and they're doing the opposite with Roman right now between Finn and Brock Lesnar. But I mean it in a good way. And Montez. But I think it's a good way because Roman has now been champion for over a year, and I think we're finally seeing like the walls are starting to close in on him. And he's not acknowledging it, but like the entire show is acknowledging that like Roman doesn't have the room to handle all of these things that are coming for him.
Yeah.
And he will say he does, but he's going to get got one of these times. And I hope he does on Sunday. I'm going to be sad if he doesn't.
Well,
prepare to be sad.
It's WWE. I'm always prepared to be sad.
Do you have anything you want to say about SmackDown, Forrest?
Zelina got her first win since coming back.
Oh, that's awesome.
Except for it was against the only
Liv
bad
Morgan.
Part was it was against Liv Morgan, who has the match on Sunday.
The Lord did you have to ruin that for me?
Because WWE and the one thing I will also say about SmackDown is I guess there was a large Happy Corbin segment.
Yeah, so I only saw the ending of SmackDown with the Demon because I am me.
Can I read this graphic that they had for Corbin?
Yes.
So when they come out, when they make their entrances, you know, I don't want to call it the Titantron or whatever the flyby that they have that comes up with their name and other important stats or intangibles. Happy Corbin, height 6'8", weight 285. These are the next two items. overcame his destitution by winning a large sum of money in Las Vegas at SummerSlam. Earned even more money by investing his gambling earnings. And the rest of the graphic is a giant Smackdown logo.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, Vishal, but your favorites, the intangibles, have migrated to the other WWE products.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
They do make me laugh most of the time because they're very silly, even if they're not supposed to be.
I saw someone on Twitter mention that like AEW is like bringing really good wrestling and stuff, but WWE like at its best feels like classic WWF, where the matches weren't very good, but the soap opera stupidity was incredible. And Smackdown, for the most part, is delivering there.
That is the one point that I would defend WWE on, even in comparison to AEW, I think. Like, I really like... AEW does not do backstage segments where two characters are talking to each other just to have a conversation. It is always a promo. It's always an interview. It's always within that very sportsman-like.
Yeah, it is. There has to be a reason for people to be filming at AEW.
Versus like Corbin and Kevin having a conversation in front of Shotzi and Tegan fixing their tank. And then Corbin gets shot in the dick with the tank, the fully functional tank that they're allowed to bring to the set. And then Dolph and Robert Roode are also there and beat up Corbin and take his money. Like, AEW doesn't do that. They kind of do on BTE.
Yeah.
But, like, there is something there. There's some uncanny valley character work that is so reality show-esque in a good way.
Yeah.
That I could and NXT and SmackDown by watching those and watching the vastly better in-ring product from AEW, honestly.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love Twin Peaks, so I feel like I love the soap opera aspects of wrestling, so I could definitely take more of that in whatever form, as long as it's good. So before we move on to like normal rules predictions, I do want to shout out maybe my favorite.
Oh, I forgot.
My favorite segment in any wrestling this week, which was Nick fucking Gage standing in front of giant MDK and lights. And the Black Parade, Welcome to the Black Parade, is playing, and he is encouraging folks to sing along. And then he says in his like very, very accented voice, like, "Come on, louder!" when they're not singing loudly enough for him. And then there's an interview after the fact, and he's like, I just really connect with the emo community and how they have all, like, I'm coming to have a greater understanding of how they got their emotions. And so the interviewer goes, "So are you going to start wearing black eyeliner and black nail polish?" And he goes, "You ain't never going to catch black nail polish on these hands or black eyeliner under these eyes, but I stand with all the guys and girls that do it. Respect." And it's just like Nick Gage might be the best character in all of wrestling right now. And the fact that he can do things like say trans rights, shout out to all my trans, relatives and everything. Like the fact that he can just be this guy, this ex-con, this deathmatch wrestler, that, is now putting on a triple threat with Mox and Cardona at GCW, but still like encourage like different groups of people, like say, I understand the emo lifestyle now. Like talking about like pushing the soap opera drama, it's just like he pushes so far over that line, but because he's so credible, you never don't believe it. And it's just like that's where the magic is for me, right? Like you have a character that's so drawn so sharply that he can do things like this, and you believe it because he's just like he's Nick motherfucking Gage, and he puts 200% into whatever he does. Anyway,
let's talk about Extreme Rules.
Let's do the predictions.
Mikey and I were going to attend, but have thusly decided we are not.
I'm like, I don't want to go through the rigmarole of having to go into a stadium when I care about maybe one match. Like, and then I have to focus on, I can't have my computer there. Like, come on.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It ain't worth it.
So let's talk about it. Forrest, you have the card up. Okay. Give us one match. Vishal,
right.
when you give us the match,
Yeah,
you give your
rapid fire.
predictions. We'll do ours and then everybody else. Yep.
All right. Liv Morgan versus Carmela. I think Liv Morgan wins this because honestly, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. Liv wins.
If not, the Twitter stands will riot.
Yeah.
I'll say whoever lost on television last because I'm sure
that's Liv who just lost today.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Next, SmackDown Tag Team Championship: the Usos versus the Street Profits. I think the Profits take this. They looked like goddamn stars at Madison Square Garden, and I think it's time for there to be some rifts in the bloodline.
You have more faith in the product than I do. Usos ain't losing.
I think it's the Usos.
Yeah. Well, Vishal, I want to call out that you're not saying the stipulations to the matches at Extreme Rules.
That's because so far,
To clarify that as of right now, these are all regular matches.
Unless something happens between now and Sunday.
I hope they just pull William Regal out to introduce the rules for every match or something.
Every match is War Games now.
Or
War Games.
I mean, they could.
Yeah, they're saying we're not doing NXT Takeover War Games. We're just gonna put it on. We're gonna put it on Extreme Rules now.
Oh,
like, legit,
hold on.
They could just decide to put the stipulations on Twitter because they've been just.
They have done that in the past. They've announced matches on Twitter.
It's they'll do whatever they want to do. They're in the Codyverse. But I think how I would approach it is to say every match is happening at the same time. This
the shortest pay-per-view in WWE history.
I mean,
this pay-per-view is either going to be 15 minutes long or will spill into Monday.
I will back up Vishal with the tag team pick. I think it is time to see some rifts in the bloodline, especially as Brock Lesnar looms.
Yeah.
I think that Montez is going to get punished for stepping up to Roman.
I think he already got punished, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, as if they don't continually punish people.
All right, United States Championship: Damian Priest versus Sheamus versus Jeff Hardy in a triple threat match, which I guess could be extreme since there's no disqualifications.
Well, Jeff Hardy's there.
Jeff Hardy, yeah.
This is not just because I have a bias. I think if now is not the time that they push the button on Priest, I think that there would be silly, like.
Yeah, he already does have the title. I should say Priest is defending.
A while.
He's defending. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, I think either
he won it at SummerSlam.
I think either Priest retains or they wildly give the belt to Jeff Hardy.
No, zero chance. No chance.
I mean, they gave him his old theme back.
Yeah, and then
maybe this is the new era for Jeff, but yeah, no, I'm going with Damian Priest here.
Yeah.
It would be a little bit weird for Priest to pin Hardy, but that seems like the most.
He's already pinned Sheamus for the title, so I could just see him doing it again.
Yeah.
Hardy is in this match to eat the pin. Whatever happens,
fair enough.
He's taking the pinfall.
Yeah, he was chasing the 24/7 belt a couple weeks ago.
He was jobbing to Cross, yeah. Or not, Cross was jobbing to him,
Well,
actually.
yeah. No, there was a quantum cross flux that happened for a little bit, yeah.
However you slice it, Jeff Hardy is not getting the premium end of the WWE bargain right now.
No, not at all.
Next, Raw Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair defends against Alexa Bliss. Charlotte wins because I still don't think they're ready to pull the trigger on Alexa yet.
No, I think.
And also, Charlotte wins.
Yeah, I think it's Charlotte, but the interesting thing would be if she gets not corrupted in the Bray Wyatt sense, but I think something happens to shake up Charlotte's character, but I think she wins.
I think Alexa wins this belt.
Charlotte Anderson.
Charlotte's character could change if she had a character to change.
Fair.
Are you telling me
I-
that calling her the peak of genetics isn't a character?
And saying queen every third word is not a promo? I would like Charlotte to go away forever. But she won't, so she retains here.
Next, SmackDown Women's Championship. Becky Lynch defends against Bianca Belair. My opinion on this is if you don't have Bianca win, you are setting a terrible, terrible, terrible precedent. But sadly, the precedent has already been set with that Triple H Booker T feud. That was the most disgusting thing WWE's ever done, or top 5. So Becky wins this one.
Because if nothing tells you they don't want you to have a good time while you're enjoying your favorite wrestling persona coming back, it should be the fact that Becky Lynch returned at SummerSlam to a large ovation. We were also happy to see her, and then they turned her heel, which not only set off my fight or flight response when it comes to surprise heel turns that I've had ever since WrestleMania 17, but it is just why? And I understand that they keep saying this was something Becky wanted to do. Not like this. It can't be. It couldn't be like
to
this.
Squash Bianca. That's insulting.
Yeah, I hear people talking about the promos on SmackDown and whatever, and how Becky's doing such a good job, and it's such a good program and whatever. And to me, it's like going to a chef at a restaurant and complimenting the chef on his literal shit sandwich. Chef, the shit was bursting with flavor. I mean, this is such a terrible idea. I don't care about the execution. It's bad. I don't care if it was Becky's idea. I don't care if it was Vince's idea. I don't care if it was Bruce Pritchard's idea. I don't care whose idea it was. It's terrible. And again, I'm going to agree with Vishal. Becky retains here.
Yeah. And one more thing about just the heel turn in and of itself is WWE is piss poor at making baby faces, and they had the most over baby face ever in Becky, and then you just threw it away.
Yeah. I think if they would be stupid to have Bianca win here because they'd be putting her in a Roman Reigns position. So
you think so?
Well,
no, I think Bianca winning would be a popular choice. It's just also I think WWE has since decided that oppressively long heel title runs are the only way to do business.
Because they can't make baby faces. Because they can't make baby faces.
But we'll eventually give that baby face the heel, or the baby face the big win when we find him. Eventually, one day when we find,
we'll give them the Money in the Bank pop, and then they'll drop the title the next pay-per-view.
What you got on this one, Boris?
Bianca. The story
Okay.
isn't just that she got squashed at SummerSlam. It's also that Becky is scared to face her in a real match.
Yeah, that's also true. And I do want to say the performances they've been putting on in promos as of late have been fairly strong. And I think Becky and Bianca are both very good performers. I just think that the inciting incident was something that left such a sour taste. It's never going to be properly washed away.
Yeah.
Again, there's no good way to cook up a shit sandwich.
Yeah.
Still shit.
I just worry that Becky is so over that if Bianca wins over her, it doesn't matter how over Bianca is. People will, the reason I bring up Roman is people will resent her because she won over Becky. So I don't know.
What I will say in response to that is, having been at the Madison Square Garden show, Bianca was more over than Becky.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
I only give a you people promo
they were
3
happy
times
to
before
they
us
they
people
were
don't like
unhappy
it
to boo
anymore.
Becky, but they were happy to cheer Bianca. And
Okay,
I think
that's
that matters.
All right.
And then the final match, the one that I should not be pinning as much of my emotional state on as I am, but here we are, the Universal Championship Extreme Rules match, Roman Reigns versus the Demon Finn Balor.
Buddy.
I'm going to say it ahead of time. I know Roman's winning this one. I'm not even going to predict that Finn Balor wins this one. What I think happens is Brock Lesnar shows up, beats the shit out of both of them, and then Roman crawls over for the pin. But either way, Roman retains here. That's it.
I think if they could find a way to end the match in a DQ at an Extreme Rules match.
Hey, they already did it in Hell in a Cell.
God, heck in a sec.
Heck in a sec. I can't. I love Finn. But I love Finn like for being the guy he was. Like I like the demon. I think.
Yeah,
it's
I
cool,
liked the Prince
but I like
more than I like the Demon.
I like Prince Devitt. I like the Bullet. Like I like that. I like that guy. I wish that I could say I don't know who's winning this, but I've known outcome of Roman's matches for more than a year now, and it wore on me faster than it wore on all of you guys.
I mean, I'm still enjoying it. So yeah.
I've said this. I'm still mostly enjoying Roman's run. It's just that now my boy is involved, and I believe Forrest would have a similar reaction if Shinsuke was the challenger here.
Yeah, like I get it. Like it's always hard when your boys are involved. I definitely know that. Mine just has happened to be the champion of the other company.
Right. And sorry, I like. Sometime we should talk about how similar those runs actually are. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Anyone else predictions on Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor? Does anyone have Finn Balor on this one?
No, it's Brock or Rock.
Again, this just speaks to Vince's inability to tell stories. Like,
what I will say, because I want to bring a little spice into this, having already made my prediction, is there is a very competent story you can tell of Roman already having his Brock Lesnar match booked for Saudi Arabia and him not having the title for it.
Yeah.
And maybe he comes back after that, beats the shit out of Finn Balor and wins the title back at the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But just for that match, it is an embarrassment for him. You can tell a story there. I don't think they will. I don't think they're interested in that, which is unfortunate because I think it would be great. But there is a story outlet.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It would be fun to see just a personal issue between Reigns and Lesnar because Heyman just makes that immediately interesting. But Vince McMahon, he's in a different space, in a different place than whenever he decided to put the title on Finn Balor. All those seems like an eternity ago. I don't think he's going back to him. This is just a one-off little program to, as always, to fill that TV time.
And whatever they do, they'll protect Finn Balor the way they always have. He'll get beat up by 3 people. He'll get destroyed by Brock Lesnar, whatever. He'll get his title shot screwed over by John Cena. And he will always come out looking like he should have had this, but it wasn't his fault he lost. And that only holds so much weight months months away.
I think maybe if we didn't have Blood Money in the Bank coming up, not mine, I can't take credit for that one, where I learned that WWE makes the entire year's worth of revenue that NJPW makes in one pay-per-view. Maybe, well,
assuming they get paid. There's a incident involving an airplane.
Yeah.
Boy.
Assuming everybody hopefully makes it back okay, because I don't think NXT 2.0 is saving the SmackDown.
Oh,
jeez.
Forgot that's when that was. Wow.
Yeah.
The one time they decided to push NXT was when
the one good Survivor
a foreign nation held their wrestlers hostage.
Yeah. But maybe if that wasn't occurring, and maybe if Brock wasn't here, I still think Finn would be the guy, but I think there'd be a little more intrigue to the matchup. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's always a little sliver that tells me they gave Finn the Universal title once.
Yeah, I have the voice in my mind.
Yeah, but
that
said there's a gulf
says they could.
Yeah, there's a gulf between where we were then and where we are now.
Well, and the thing that sucks is, like, I know obviously in the microcosm these matches matter, but on the greater scheme, like whatever happens at Extreme Rules isn't gonna be like a big shakeup, and doesn't really matter because they're saving so many like big things for Blood Money in the Bank, aka Crown Jewel,
aka
like it really feels like everything is just kind of in a holding pattern.
Yeah, and then we're
then.
at the tail end of the year, which is usually WWE's weakest part of the year anyway. Like Hell in a Cell. We don't have Hell in a Cell it's already happened.
Yeah, wait, so what's the next pay-per-view after Extreme Rules? Because Survivor Series is November.
Crown Jewel.
So
like,
Crown
Jewel. Not
Jewel.
counting Crown Jewel, I have no idea.
Yeah, is there an October pay-per-view that isn't Crown Jewel?
I don't think so.
I don't think so because
Jesus,
Hell in a Cell.
that's.
So I think the next one after Crown Jewel is Survivor Series.
Yeah, Survivor
Dang.
Series.
I mean, they're already advertising Survivor Series, so
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So yeah, we are definitely at the downstretch of WWE's yearly programming.
But we have the draft.
The draft. Yeah, we have the draft.
I always want to like the draft, and I always don't like it as much as I should.
I don't give a shit.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Next week when we talk about the draft,
Yeah, we'll have things to say.
Things to say about the draft. Anyway, thank you. We've gone a little long, but I think we had a lot to talk about. I think we did it stupendously. In any case, next week when we talk about the draft and the week, hopefully in a more succinct fashion this week.
I think we've gotten all of our grand ideas out of the way
Yeah.
and can focus on the nitty gritty from here on.
Well,
Yes.
and considering the amount of hour length of wrestling program we covered, I think 2 hours is a pretty good length.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah, anyway, thank you all. I'm going to give you all an opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you if you wish to be found. So we'll go, Forrest, you start.
I've recently been drafted into the 24/7 title chase. So look for me there.
Are you going to be the one who finally pins Reginald?
Riddick Moss is back, so I'm hoping to get a big win in there.
Okay.
I'm fairly convinced Reginald is actually capable of flight, given the height of jumps I've seen him perform.
Maybe you just need to put on like a eagle costume or something, and then you can follow suit.
There you go. Sure.
Yeah.
Will, where can people find you?
Well, I am starting NXT 3.0 on Twitter at Will Nevin.
Vishal?
You can find me tweeting nothing or tweeting 30 things in a day. It really just depends on the flip of a coin. At vgola87.
You can find me, don't please, at Genetic Ghost on Twitter, where I am continually talking about the Elite. So maybe if you don't like that, don't go there. Sometimes I also talk about other things, but that's pretty much, that's pretty much it. Go ahead, Mikey.
You can find me talking about the Elite video games and retweeting Eat, Pray, PREY, love, video game memes at quantum ... on Twitter.
Yeah, and you can find our new wrestling Twitter feed at ComicsXFight, where you can find all of the stuff we do with wrestling, which is going to turn into more things as soon as I conceive of it. And then you can find these videos with some little sprinklings of other things I'm gonna say every Sunday. That's just how we've been doing it. I'll keep it that way. So you can read this and listen to it before Extreme Rules this Sunday, and start your week off fresh. But thank you everyone for watching, and you're not here for me to actually thank you, but thank you anyway.